I'm in my zone. Yeah. I'm in my zone. Breaking them as they come. Who crowning that number one?
Welcome to In the Zone and welcome to the NBA playoffs. Isn't it great to finally be here in the postseason? Look, before we get into it, if you like what you're hearing on In the Zone, please remember to subscribe to us on iTunes, YouTube, and SoundCloud. Give us 5 stars and give me your best takes in the comments. Now, since we're now in the NBA playoffs, we're going to do something a little bit different within the zone, something kind of special for our show. Today, we're going to debut a new format that I like to call Me Against the World.
It's just me against the world.
Each week, I'll bring in a different guest to debate the hottest topics in the playoffs. Whoever the best guest ends up being will lock in that person as my debate partner for the entire NBA Finals. All right, so let's get to it. This week, we're bringing back the Big Lead founder, Jason McIntyre. My man, what's happening?
Yeah, good to be back, Chris.
Is it good?
Yeah.
I
I need to beat you up again.
I heard they had to drag you in here and give you extra money to get you to come back.
They told me you wore black because you thought this was going to be a funeral.
Yeah, your
like
funeral.
Like the NBA
your
players
funeral.
do. No. I'm winning this one again.
All right. Let's get it started. Last night, we saw the Boston Celtics lose to the Chicago Bulls again. They're now down 0-2. Okay? This looks like it's going to be the 3rd straight year they go out in the first round. So what I want to ask you is if they add another star in the offseason, will that make them a legitimate championship contender?
Chris, if they can add Paul George to the mix this offseason, you give up Marcus Smart, Jay Crowder, whoever you want. You give up a future draft pick too. You have Paul George as your alpha and Isaiah Thomas as your number 2. And then you got like Markelle Fultz in the draft. You got some depth on the bench. I think certainly.
They might have to give up that draft pick to get Paul.
Well, they also got the 2018 number 1, right? So
I don't know that
they've got options.
Okay.
And I think if you add Paul George, I think Gordon Hayward, who you referenced last week on this podcast, would be nice. Paul George would be the big fish. Okay. He clearly wants out of Indiana.
Okay.
We'll get to that later.
So if they get Paul George,
listen, we've seen Paul George take Cleveland to 2 straight games to the buzzer. Okay, with Lance Stevenson, Jeff Teague, 20-year-old Miles.
You're so far off.
I'm telling you.
So you're saying
Paul George and the Celtics next year will win the East.
Oh,
take it to the bank, Chris. Cash it.
I don't know what kind of place you do your banking at, but that stuff will not fly in the zone. All right? You giving Paul George credit for playing Cleveland close? Detroit played Cleveland close last year and got swept in 4 games.
They did.
New Orleans played Golden State close 2 years ago and got swept in 4 games. In the playoffs, LeBron James is absolutely right. It doesn't matter how close the games are. You don't get credit for playing close. You get credit for winning. And Paul George going to Boston would certainly make them better. They'd be a lot better. They would be a contender with 2 stars, George and Isaiah, okay, who is a star. But they would not win the East unless LeBron just declines a lot more than we expect. If LeBron comes back next year just as good as he is this year, then they are still the favorite in the Eastern Conference.
How do you think LeBron's going to come back at 33, assuming they go to the finals this year? That'll be 7 straight finals trips. He will be, I think, number 2 in NBA playoff history in minutes played in the postseason. He'll pass Kobe.
So
that
if you're factoring in a decline, then that's one thing. If LeBron James shows significant decline next year and is not close to the same player he is this year, then I'll give you that. With Paul George, maybe Boston wins the East.
Number 2, Chris, the Clippers, even their series last night with the Jazz, but still didn't look anything like the super team they once promised to be. Chris, if the Clippers lose this series, should they blow it up and start over?
Blow it up is too strong of a term. Okay, you don't blow it up. Blow it up what? And go young and get a bunch of draft picks and try to get a star in the draft? No way. That's where they were for the past 25 years. Okay, you are relevant right now. You got one of the most exciting teams in the league. You've got 3 all-star caliber players. You don't blow that up. Now, you do make changes, and I would use Blake Griffin as the guy to make some changes. I bring back Chris Paul. I bring back DeAndre Jordan. I would love to try to get Paul George for Blake Griffin, okay? That's one thing I would do. I would offer Blake Griffin to Indiana. Blake's a free agent, so it'd have to be a sign and trade. But if you're Indiana and you're going to lose Paul George, you'll gladly take Blake Griffin, who I think will be even better in the Eastern Conference.
Okay, let me interrupt you real quick. You got Miles Turner and Blake Griffin. Those are two big
might
guys.
be tough. They
Isn't
might
that
not do it.
duplicating?
Yeah, they might not do it. I'd offer that. I'd also look at Washington. Let me get Otto Porter and Bradley Beal maybe for Blake Griffin. Let me look at Boston. Maybe Avery Bradley and Jay Crowder. My point is, I would bring back Blake Griffin or use him as the guy to improve my team, but I don't blow it up and start all over.
Even though Redick is old. And
he's not old. He's gonna be coveted on the free agent market.
Jamal Crawford is 37.
Jamal Crawford is old.
Yeah, okay.
Now, also what I might do is keep Blake, trade Jamal Crawford and Austin Rivers for Carmelo Anthony. Now, does that make me a championship team?
Doing that?
They might. You saw Phil Jackson saying he's definitely getting rid of him.
Chris, let me give you the definition of the word insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results.
Did you make that up? Or
no, that is
somebody
a
else
dictionary definition. I memorized it this morning. Chris, I got it.
So you would blow it up?
5 years in a row, 50-plus wins. Haven't got out of the second round of the playoffs.
Okay.
And right now, I believe what I saw last night, that game 2, unimpressive. They should have destroyed a Cantor-less Jazz. They could never pull away.
Gobert-less.
Gobert-less, I'm sorry.
So
if
blow
they
it
go
up.
out in the first round, I think you blow it up. You keep Chris Paul, everybody else, adios. See ya.
All right, look. Golden State Warriors, let's move on.
Fire away.
Kevin Durant has a left calf string. Questionable for tonight's game against Portland. Warriors coach Steve Kerr said if he didn't practice, quote, it was a concern, okay? Oh, yeah. While Durant sat out practice on Tuesday. Jason, should the Warriors rest Kevin Durant until deeper in the playoffs?
No doubt, 100% rest him. All right.
So what's deeper?
It depends how severe this injury is. I mean, listen, we saw Durant rush back. Remember the Jones fracture a couple years ago? He came back early, played a couple games, and then got hurt again.
It's different than a calf strain.
It is.
A Jones fracture.
Listen, it's all his leg, whether it's the knee, the foot, the calf, it's all busted. Listen, we went to that Clippers-Warriors game. I'm watching Durant up close. I know you dapped him up. You guys are boys. But I'm watching him. He is like 6'11", a toothpick. It looks like his legs.
Is that something new? He's been a toothpick for 10 years.
It looks like his feet are water skis. That's honestly how he looks. And now the foot, and he's had a bunch of injuries. I am very cautious with Kevin Durant.
So,
if I'm the Warriors, so I'm very cautious.
Let's say they don't have a problem.
At least a week, definitely.
Okay, that's not that bad.
That's at least 2 games.
Let me ask you this. If they have no trouble with Portland, they win tonight, they're up 2-0, and Durant's ready, like he's healthy, you would keep him out.
I do not see any need to force him back.
Okay. I disagree.
Early. Why?
I disagree because you need to develop your chemistry with Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and the rest of your stars.
What about the first 60 games of the season?
That was a long time ago. You saw after the 20 games they played without him, they became a different team. You don't just throw a star in and it's all peachy king. It works out right away. That's a role player. Okay. A star changes things. So my point is you need to if he's hurt, you keep him out. Of course. You're right about that. But if he's ready to play, I don't say, we're up 2-0. We're up 3-0. Let's rest him. He rested for 6 weeks. And just got hurt again. Rest is not the problem. Okay. Rest is not the answer, or healing is not the answer. The answer is if he's ready to play, let's get him in there and develop his chemistry with our other stars because you're going to need it against San Antonio.
The NBA playoffs are a marathon. It's not a sprint. This is like a 2-month ordeal.
Yeah.
What's the point of bringing him back when you're up 3-0?
If he's healthy, the point is developing chemistry. Right. Letting him and Steph get chemistry together.
Are they beating the Cavs without Kevin Durant?
Possibly.
Okay.
They beat him 2 years ago without Kevin Durant, and
they
could have beat him last year.
So
had a great chance to beat him last year without Kevin Durant.
That's true as well.
I'm not saying be careless with it, but I'm saying if he's healthy and ready to play, don't just sit him out to rest him.
Speaking of your Cleveland Cavaliers, they are now up 2-0 on the Pacers in the first round. LeBron
James.
The
Pacers, we giving them props though, right?
Yes, we are. LeBron had this to say about the Cavs.
Because we're right there. We're right there of what we know we can become, and we figure it out. So, like I told you, I'd much rather have an 18-point lead than not have a lead at all. And we make plays down the stretch to win a ball game, and in the postseason, that's all you can ask for. But we're right there on turning the switch on what we really can become.
flipping the switch. It's a term LeBron has used before to reference the Cavs. When they're struggling, we'll just flip the switch. Chris, have the Cavs proven they can flip the switch when needed?
Without question. And mainly because LeBron James. He has proven time and time again that he can flip the switch. You remember his first championship in Miami. They're down 3-2 to Boston, okay? Going back to Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. What does he do? He has a great game, back against the wall, leads them to a championship. We saw even that year, they finished with the second seed and lost to Chicago in the regular season several times. In the playoffs, they beat them in 5 games. Of course, last year, down 3-1. I don't want to say flip a switch, but for lack of a better phrase, they flipped the switch in the finals and end up winning the next 3. So you should never doubt LeBron James' ability to rise to the occasion when necessary. And he is so much better than any other player in the East that I believe he still has enough and he can flip the switch and the Cavs can win the East.
Agree with everything you said about LeBron. My question is the rest of the Cavs. That's where my concern lies. This is a team that ranked 22nd in defensive efficiency. We know LeBron can come and save the day with his 40-point games like he did in the finals.
Save the day.
Yeah. Triple-double
so
in Game 7.
He can win it.
But here's where and this is kind of a big picture thing, a theory I've had. Okay, so last year, we got to do it for Cleveland. We got to do it for LeBron. Kyrie Irving, you got to prove, that you're a legit point guard. You didn't win jack squat before LeBron got here. Kevin Love, they were going to trade him all season. Remember, he was on the trading block. LeBron was crushing him. J.R. Smith was a knucklehead, tying people's shoes. All these guys had images to shape, and they had to save the city of Cleveland, who would never won a title. I wonder, now that they've got that in the back pocket, well, we won it last year, we can just flip the switch. Do all those guys, do you really have confidence? And I don't. All those guys can just say, all right, it's on. I'm going to lock down on defense. I'm going to stop acting up.
I don't need all those guys. What? Like I said, LeBron is so much better than every other player in the East. And listen to the teams in the East. Washington's got 1 star, right? John Wall. Toronto's got 1.5.
Serge Ibaka?
No, I mean, DeMar DeRozan. Kyle Lowry's half a star. Whatever you want to call him.
Isaiah Thomas star. But
and you don't even say Boston has a star. So my point is LeBron at the top of his in the East.
We agree on that.
Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Against the healthy full Warriors, can they flip the switch?
Well, even if they flip the switch, they still probably aren't good enough to beat Golden State and maybe even San Antonio.
It's not as much fun when we agree as,
but
kind of on the same page.
Yeah.
Right.
I get scared. I get scared when I agree.
I know, because I'm agreeing with you.
All right, look, staying with the Cavs. All right, after a second straight loss to Cleveland, Paul George, your favorite player, had a second straight post-game press conference where he criticized his teammates. This time he went after Lance Stevenson. Let's see what he said.
Lance is in our locker room is looked upon as a leader, one of our leaders. So his body language has to improve just for the team.
All right, Jason. Leader. Do you like your boy Paul George calling out his teammates?
I do not like it at all, Chris. Hold up. He called Lance Stevenson a leader. You know how long Lance Stevenson's been in that locker room this year? 6 games. And he's a leader? What does that say about Paul George's leadership? He also called out Miles Turner, who I believe is 21 years old. Paul George wants out of Indiana. That's what he's doing here, setting the table. Hey, they tried to talk about trading me at the deadline. Now I got the CJ Miles hogging my last shot, which I thought was okay, but you don't need to do that. Listen, you don't need to call out your guys who are vastly inferior to you in front of the media. Think about it like this. Jamie Horowitz hired both of us to come over here and kick some butt for FS1. Yeah. Jamie Horowitz talks to the New York Times and says, hey, man, Chris Broussard, he's got to step up his podcast. He's getting worked by McIntyre. We need to deliver the numbers.
We know he ain't saying that.
That's the equivalent of what Paul George just did to Lance.
That's fantasy.
I mean, you cannot go after your guys in public. Pull Paul George, pull your guys aside and say, guys, listen, get your mind right. I don't want to lose another game in this series.
I get what you're saying, and normally I tend to agree with you, and also I would say Paul George, as great as he is, and he's a perennial all-star player, he does not have the stature to call out teammates. He's not LeBron James. He's not even Steph Curry. He's not Kevin Durant or even Russell Westbrook, who have won at a certain level. Paul George has not really won at a high enough level to be calling out teammates. That said, if you look at his demeanor, he wasn't going off on guys. You know what I mean? He wasn't like, man, Lance ain't getting it done. He was very calm, which led me to believe he actually talked to guys in the locker room before. He said, me and C.J. Miles talked. So it wasn't like he went to the media first. He let C.J. know. I'm sure they were cool.
How you going to put him on blast like that?
He didn't put him on blast.
I need the last shot. You just went and gave everybody a headline.
That was the statement that was wrong. But saying what he said about C.J., I don't think that was putting him on blast. And with Lance, look, he was there with Lance for 4 years. Right?
2014 when they went to the conference finals.
He saw Lance implode and blow up that team before. I think he knows how to deal with Lance, and I think he understands. Look, he credited him. He's a leader in our locker room. But then he dropped a little constructive criticism, too. A leader can always drop constructive criticism. So I'm not killing him.
If Stevenson is a leader in that locker room, they got major
problems. I think he's saying that. I agree that he's not.
26-year-old
I think he's saying that just because he had been there before. And they remember how good he was in Indiana.
3 years, dude. All right, moving on. On Monday, Kawhi Leonard, career playoff high, 37 and 11 boards against Memphis. Your boy, Skip Bayless, went as far as to say Kawhi has eclipsed LeBron as the best two-way player. I can't say it with a straight face. Best two-way player in the league. Chris, is Kawhi clearly the best all-around player in the NBA?
No.
Hey, Skip's outside right now. You know he'll come after you.
We could bring Skip in. LeBron James is still the best player in the NBA. Now, Kawhi is clearly a better defender. Okay, no question. LeBron, 14th season, not quite the defender he used to be. Okay, we get that. You're a veteran now. You're many years wear and tear on your body. But he's still so far superior offensively to Kawhi that he is the best player in the league. Kawhi essentially scores. He didn't even average 6 rebounds a game this season. Averaged 3.5 assists, okay? LeBron is a playmaker. You watch their games. All you got, LeBron controls tempo. He makes plays for his teammates. He's a much more efficient scorer than Kawhi. And when they need a lockdown defensive play, he still can get it done. And we'll see that in the playoffs. They'll put him on the best player when they have to. All right, later in the playoffs, and he'll be able to get it done.
Right, I'm just going to cape up a little bit for Kawhi here. They won.
I love Kawhi.
They won 60 games, and his supporting cast, by the way, is vastly inferior to LeBron. He don't have a Kevin Love. He don't have a Kyrie Irving.
Well, he has a
Not
Kevin Love.
Even
LaMarcus Aldridge.
Oh, please. Kevin Love all day over LaMarcus Aldridge
really?
right now. Kevin Love hit threes.
When Kevin Love had his own team, they were going relatively deep into the playoffs.
Kevin Love's like 3 years
They
younger.
were making the playoffs. When
LaMarcus...
Kevin Love had his own team, they weren't even making the playoffs.
Okay, I hear you
I
on
just
that.
think they're similar. They're same level.
And
LaMarcus
Kyrie
Aldridge.
Irving, okay,
they
so
don't
bottom
have a
line,
Kyrie.
Kawhi has the better team.
agree.
So the other thing, Kawhi's only 25, and we talked about this last week. If NBA GMs, you call them up on your phone over there, text them, you text all 32 of them. How many pick Kawhi number one if you're starting a team right now and age is a factor? You know, Karl Anthony Towns in the mix, but Kawhi Leonard. I mean, he's stepped up his game so much.
He's great.
Listen, he went from role player on those Spurs teams, the big three, to maybe number 2 when he was a Finals MVP, and now he's a number 1. He's an alpha. That is an impressive rise. Listen, LeBron 32, Kawhi 25.
So are you saying you would take Kawhi over LeBron?
For this playoff?
Right now?
No.
Okay,
For at the beginning of next season?
Kawhi is great.
I think it's close.
Kawhi is arguably the second best player in the world. So I'm with you on that. But no, you can't take him over LeBron James.
Not right now at this moment.
No. All right, look. Speaking of Kawhi, let's stay with him. He set a new personal best where he shot 19 free throws in the game 2 against Memphis. That's
against Vince Carter.
More than the entire
39.
Memphis team. All right. Grizzlies coach David Fizdale took issue with the officiating and had this to say.
It was a very poorly officiated basketball game. Zach Randolph, the most rugged guy in the game, had 0 free throws, but somehow Kawhi Leonard had 19 free throws. First half, we shot 19 shots in the paint, and we had 6 free throws. They shot 11 times in the paint, and they had 23 free throws. I'm not a numbers guy, but that doesn't seem to add up. Overall, 35 times we shot the ball in the paint. We had 15 free throws for the game. They shot 18 times in the paint and had 32 free throws. Kawhi shot more free throws than our whole team. Explain it to me. We don't get the respect that these guys deserve because Mike Conley doesn't go crazy. He has class, and he just plays the game. But I'm not going to let them treat us that way. You know, I know Pop's got pedigree, and I'm a young rookie, but they're not going to rook us. That's unacceptable. That was unprofessional. My guys dug in that game and earned the right to be in that game, and they did not even give us a chance. Take that for data.
I love it.
Wow.
I love my man Fizdale. Look, is he right? Are the Grizzlies getting jobbed by the referees?
Listen, I watch a lot of basketball. I would not have known that guy if he delivered me a pizza last night. But I was so impressed by that speech. Passionate, had a little street in it. It felt like he was one of Drake's boys, right? And listen, that's how you work referees, okay? It's a smart move. We've seen Phil Jackson do this for years. You work the refs in between games. Bill Belichick in the NFL does this, and it hopefully pays off. But listen, just stop crying, okay? You can't put 39-year-old Vince Carter.
Hold on. You just praised him.
Right, but the
You
real
put
talk.
him in the company of Pat Riley and Phil Jackson.
He's playing games.
Now you're saying he's crying.
The real talk is you can't put a 39-year-old on Kawhi Leonard and expect him to contain him. Vince Carter cannot check Kawhi Leonard. Can't stay with him.
Vince Carter didn't play 35 minutes.
He played him a lot on defense, especially in the fourth quarter when the game was close. What do you want to put one of the Harrison twins on him? Those NBDL kids? If you had Tony Allen, I could understand. But the real talk here is they got no chance against Kawhi with those wing defenders.
He's right, though, in that they are a much more physical team, or they're a physical team. Spurs are physical, too. But they are a physical team. They shot more. You heard the numbers. They took more shots in the paint. How are they not getting to the free throw line? Look, with Pop, I think probably the best coach in NBA history, there is an intimidation factor with the referees. There's an intimidation factor. So
because Pop's going to stare at them
no,
and
just
glare
because
and
it's his
snarl?
stature. And then Fizdale's right. He's a rookie coach. Like you said, they don't know Fizdale. So him stepping up for his players, him going at the refs like that, I think in Game 3 he's going to get better calls. Look, the Spurs were in the bottom half of the league. There are only 5 teams in the league that took fewer free throws in the regular season than the Spurs. Okay? The Grizzlies were 11th in the league in free throws attempted. So how all of a sudden does it switch the way it did in the playoffs? You're right. They can't guard Kawhi. He's going to get to the line. But what about the other situation? Why aren't the Grizzlies getting to the line as well?
Yeah, that's a very fair question.
Yeah.
So we just talked a lot about the Grizzlies, huh? Are they winning Game 3?
No.
I actually,
you know what?
You got to go to the grindhouse.
They might get Game 3.
Yeah, I think
they might get Game 3.
It'll be closer than the experts think.
They might get Game 3.
Chris, this one's a difficult one because I know you're Team Westbrook, but the Rockets star James Harden and Russell Westbrook are playing again tonight. You voted Westbrook as MVP.
Yes, proudly.
Oh my God.
Proudly.
As did most of the clueless pundits. But he got smoked in Game 1 by Harden and my guy, Patrick Beverley. Chris, does Westbrook need to win this series to justify being named MVP?
Oh, no. MVP is a regular season award. I don't care if he goes scoreless the rest of the series. It doesn't matter. It's a regular season award. And he had the best, most dynamic regular season of any player in the league. So he's the MVP. If you want to throw in playoffs and the NBA wants to count playoffs, then don't have the voting until the playoffs are over. But if the voting is in mid-April, as it is, and it's a regular season award, then nothing that happens in the playoffs should diminish a player from getting the MVP.
Wow. We talked about how diminished the regular season is. You got players sitting out, TV ratings down, and now you want to say, oh, well, who cares what happens in the first round? Westbrook was the MVP for 80. Chris, you've lost your mind officially. I am disappointed in you.
Hold on. Let me finish.
If they get swept, you think, oh, let's still give them the award. It doesn't matter.
It's too late to change it. Let me ask you this. When I voted 2 weeks ago for the MVP award, should I have said, well, let me think about what's going to happen in the first round of the playoff? Really?
Head to head.
Really?
And Chris, don't forget, you also thought for 6 months Harden was the MVP, and you said, oh, in the last month, I'm going to give it to Westbrook. So now,
because
in the
he
next
averaged a triple-double, and the team
2 more
won.
rebounds, stat padding, blah, blah, blah.
It's a triple-double. Has anybody else in history done it?
Okay, Oscar Robertson. When Westbrook goes to collect the award,
and Westbrook,
and you see Westbrook MVP triple-double, and they had 0 playoff wins, and the Rockets had 4. You don't think that's an embarrassment for the league? You don't think that's
it might
pathetic?
be for the league, but I'm saying as a voter,
oh my God.
I can't look into the future and say LeBron's going to lead Cleveland to the finals. He's going to look like the best player in the world. I'm voting for him. It's not about what you did in last year's finals, this year's finals. It is a regular season award.
Okay. the regular season that don't mean jack squat. Gosh, Chris.
You would know better if you had started watching basketball
I'm going to have to take my jacket off for this
more
last
than
segment.
10 years ago. All right, look, let's get to your favorite team. Are they even in the NBA still? The New York Knicks, the soap opera that is Madison Square Garden. Knicks president Phil Jackson had this to say about his best player, Carmelo Anthony. We've not been able to win with him on the court at this time. I think the direction with our team is that he is a player that would be better off somewhere else. Right now, we need players that are really active, can play every single play defensively and offensively. Jason, who should your Knicks get rid of first?
Phil
or Melo?
Phil, out of here. Listen, we talked, I think, last week or maybe before. They could not get a sit-down with Greg Monroe in free agency. He would not even come. Who's going to come now that Phil treated Melo like he's a ring chaser, like David West? That's what he did. He said, go chase a ring. You're only 32. You can still get 20 a night, but go chase a ring elsewhere. I think that's so disrespectful. Porzingis reacted harshly. He don't want to sit for no exit interview. They're a laughingstock once again. Chris, I don't know how you even keep Phil through this. I think James Dolan needs to show up at Phil's door, get in your helicopter, leave your mansions in the Hamptons, go out to the city.
Leave your band.
Go and tell Phil Jackson, hey, Phil, we extended you, but here's a suitcase with $10 million. Get the hell out of here. Have a good retirement in Idaho in your teepee. Go smoke your little stuff and enjoy retirement. You're 71. Enjoy it because you're just not working here.
I'm glad you've been listening. We've been here for 30 minutes. I'm finally getting through to you.
Oh.
You're finally, for all your braggadocio,
okay.
all your histrionics, you're listening to me. Wow. Okay, I agree with you. You finally got some wisdom.
Yes.
Get rid of Phil Jackson. Melo at this stage of his career, right? It'll be his 15th year next year. I think he's accepted who he is at this point in his career, and I don't think he'd have a problem being the second guy to Porzingis. He's still going to get 18 to 20 points, maybe even more, but I think Melo could handle you running through Porzingis. Okay, so I don't think Melo is the big problem. Phil is. And the biggest problem for all your the free agents, you're right, who wants to go there?
Yeah, I didn't get
Porzingis is the biggest problem because if you have him now looking at your dysfunction and saying, I don't know if I want to spend the prime years of my career with this madness, now you really got a problem. Porzingis is the most important Knick since Patrick Ewing. The most
That's
important.
A statement.
That is
I
a
like
statement.
That. Okay.
He may not be the best player, certainly
whoa,
not yet.
We forgot
not
somebody.
Not yet. Who?
Ron Baker.
Yeah, that's one of Phil's boys. And I ain't even get to the triangle.
Yes, that's the biggest problem.
Well, that's a big problem because you need to let your coach, whoever you hire, coach. All right, you sit up in the front office and bring in players. Let him coach. All right, and so Phil, I agree with you. He's got to go.
I talked about this on my radio show. Listen, 3 years ago, Phil Jackson tried his best to get Steve Kerr. Came really close to getting Steve Kerr, remember? And then Steve Kerr picked the Warriors. He's now.
I think he made the right decision.
Yeah, now what if, you want to play the what if game? What if he had landed Steve Kerr in New York? And they started to play with this 3-and-D stuff.
They wouldn't. Steve Kerr would have lost in New York.
So you think
Steve
Kerr heard? You think he heard the pitch from Phil? Triangle. Phil. Steve Kerr's like,
look,
no thanks.
I think he just knew it was clearly a better situation than Golden State. You can go there and win. At the very least, you're going to be a good playoff team. Whereas you can go to New York and get buried and not win. I mean, it was a no-brainer decision. So I don't think Kerr would have came to New York and lit it up. Yeah. I think they would have struggled because they really don't have the players.
Feels on like his fourth coach thing since
yeah.
Kurt Rambis. And we didn't even get to Melo and his off-field issue. A dancer that he supposedly has had a dalliance with.
That's that big lead in you.
His wife.
This is the zone, baby.
Dude,
we don't go there.
When your wife's dumping
you. We got class up in this place.
Your coach.
We don't go there.
Your coach is
don't bring up
you.
that garbage.
You got your
smut.
You got your
that
jump
smut.
off.
We got class
Dude,
in the zone.
Carmelo's got some big issues right now. The coach.
He's the only professional athlete doing that stuff.
Oh my God.
I don't like it. You know me, I live clean. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but that's smut. We don't bring that up in the zone.
Well said, Chris.
We don't bring that up in the zone. My man, good job.
Hey,
You
I'm
might
2-0
have got
against
one.
you. I'm the Bulls.
I think it was
You're the Celtics.
Last week it was like 5-0.
Oh,
This week I think it was like 7-2.
I'm the Bulls.
I give
2.
you a couple.
You're the Celtics. Goose egg.
Yeah.
Number
all
1
right,
seed.
all right.
Showing out.
My man. Peace.
Game blouses.
That's it for this week's show. Please remember to subscribe to us on iTunes and SoundCloud. Give us 5 stars and leave a nice comment. Make sure you also catch me live on my nationally syndicated radio show along with my co-host Brian Noe on Fox Sports Radio every Saturday, 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern. We'll be reacting to live games and covering all of the major stories in sports. See you next week. Peace.
I'm in my zone. Yeah, I'm in my zone.